George, I know that you worked at the 1972 Olympics in Munich, and I know a little bit about that story, about how you got that job when you were touring with the Hamburg Symphony.
Right.
But you want to talk a little bit about that experience?
Well, I was a theater consultant. I had my own company, George Thomas Associates, in Phoenix, and was trying to desperately figure out how to go to Munich. I was the set decorator for the new Dick Van Dyke show, and Chuck Howard knew Dick from the Satellite Bar, and
Chuck Howard was one of the producers for ABC Wide
Right.
World of Sports that you mentioned.
Right. I had to leave the Dick Van Dyke show 3 days before it was actually over. My contract was over, and we went to Munich and got there and started working with the crew, and still didn't know what I was going to do there. So I, as a theater consultant, I did a lot of acoustical designing. So I took the VTR rooms and acoustized the walls in there, because they're very noisy. We had five VTR rooms with 2 machines in each room, and it's extremely noisy. And during the editing and stuff, if you can imagine, when the Munich started 3 days before the opening, Freddie Schumann, who was the vice president of ABC, said, "George, we'd like you to be the stage manager for us, and you'll have 5 assistants." So I became a stage manager in the studio. So those of you who've done television know it's basically the floor manager that has responsibility for the camera starts and the talent, mostly the talent, and getting them arranged for and on time and so on, and curing the cameras like Robert's doing right now. Robert, our cameraman.
Rob Hirsch is our technical producer on this shoot.
Thank you.
Also, I'm curious, did you have to have any labor affiliation when you went to work for ABC in Munich?
No, it wasn't an IA. This shouldn't be in this story. It was not an IA.
Well, no, that's okay.
Yeah,
I'm just curious.
No, not in Germany. No, it was it was above the law. And the Olympics, they got away with a lot of stuff there. I had a chauffeur. I had a brand new BMW with a chauffeur every day, and
life's hard, huh?
Yeah, but I bought a car. I bought a Super Beetle, a Volkswagen. And the Olympics are going along. It was a peaceful Olympics. Everything was beautiful. The security was very relaxed. A lot of guys had been dismissed to go, to just see the games. And it was so relaxed. I'm a sailor, and Chuck Howard, Rune Arledge didn't care much for. Howard go sell like boxing, a lot of boxing, endless boxing and wrestling. So I said, why don't we cover some yachting up at Kiel? Kiel, Germany's on the north side of Germany on the Baltic Sea, and that's where the yachting venue was. They said, well, no, we can't do that. And I said, well, how about if I go up there with a camera and shoot some? We can at least put it on closing ceremonies. They said they finally agreed to it after a couple of days of it. We worked that day, got off work about midnight in a normal day. I had brought my new car in that day so I could leave it in the compound while I went to Kiel for 2 days, and flew up there in Maersk Air. But that night we dilly-dallied around because the plane wasn't going to leave until like 5 or 5:30 in the morning, and so we decided to stay up all night. So we were the last ones to leave the studio, and I noticed there was a different guard on the back door, that guy I'd never seen before. And my car was parked right across this little driveway, and on the other side, and I thought that's kind of strange. And so we got outside, and I said, I think I'll check the car one more time to make sure it's locked. So I started across the street to the car, and I saw there were 2 other cars that weren't there. I was the only one allowed to bring a car in that night, and there were 2 black BMW, looked like our cars, one on each side and one on the other side. And I said, well, no, everything's going to be okay. And I came back, and we went walking over to Press City to catch the Army bus over to the airport. But about halfway over there, which is almost a full mile of walking across these practice fields, the field hockey practice fields, a car came from behind us with its parking lights on, just racing through the grass and tearing up the grass. And it went under this bridge, under this pedestrian bridge we were at, up on the berm and across the top of the bridge, and disappeared and went away. And then a second car came, and I started to realize these are the 2 cars that had been parked there. I tape recorded my events of the day rather than writing them down like a diary on tape. And you can hear these cars. And so we got over to Press City. There was a lot of commotion. The police were there, and these two cars had gone down the stairs, like 14 stairs, a flight of steps on this flight, through barricades and crashed the barricades, and gone off into the night. And nobody could figure out what was going on. We waited in the lounge there at Press City and eventually got on the bus, went to the airport, got on the plane, flew to Kiel. About 7 o'clock in the morning, got to Kiel, and they offered either going out in a press boat out in the yachting venues, or to go in the Goodyear blimp, Europa. I'd never been in the blimp before, but it's kind of fun. But I decided to go, since I was a boater, I'd like to go out on the water close to it. So we're going down the dock to the press boat, which were private boats that had been volunteered from German private citizens. But the German Navy ran each boat. There was Navy personnel on each one. Just getting in the boat, this little German boy came down with 2 bags full of the box lunches for the people on the boat. And he said, "Something's going on in Munich. We don't know what it is." So we got on the boat, sailed out into the Baltic, to shot the whole day, and came back in, and all the flags when we got back in were at half-mast. All 60 flags, 30 on this side, 30 on this side. There were 60 countries involved in the yachting, and this is the day that the terrorists broke in to the compound. Building 31 was right across the berm from our studio. And they think, and it's not for sure today, that those 2 cars were the drop-off cars for the terrorists, and they could have been in the cars at that time. I don't know what would have happened if I'd crossed the street and tried to go into that, but they think they went over the fence right there and into Building 31. And I was just going the totally opposite direction for my job. My job is to be there to shoot that event. So Jimmy Flood, one of my assistants, took over and did the mine work as a stage manager. And Jim McKay did all the work, of course. Jimmy McKay was on the radio.
Jim McKay was one of the lead on-screen personalities for ABC Wide World of Sports.
36 hours straight there. Anyway, so that's one story.
That's quite a story.
And I couldn't get back. I couldn't get back from Kiel because Munich was sealed off, so it took me 2 days to get back.
Well, thanks so much for sharing that story with us, George.
Yeah.
Again, thanks. Thanks so much.